guys, welcome back to EOK TV. I'm delighted to be here with Steve Tendon, the founder of ChainStrategies and blockchain advisor for the Maltese government. Steve, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
How are you finding Malta Blockchain Summit so far?
Oh, it's just overwhelming. So many people. It seems to be rush hour on the tube in London.
Absolutely. So could you tell us a little bit more about ChainStrategies, how you started that, and also your role in the Maltese government?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the role, because I've been very active in creating the blockchain island. I work with the Ministry of Economy doing the first initial national strategy for the whole concept of bringing the blockchain technology to this island. I was on the national task force with Minister Silvius Kembri, transforming the strategy into the current 3 laws and the next 4th upcoming law, which will be announced pretty soon. And since this assignment now has come to its natural end, we have delivered. I thought that I'd go over more to the private space, and this is the reason for being for ChainStrategies. I am giving blockchain advisory services both to startups as well as established businesses and also other governments.
Okay, so what was it that was so favourable about Malta that attracted you here, and also the whole idea of this whole blockchain island, which seems to have stuck?
Well, I came to Malta over 12 years ago, so that's a long story. So maybe rather I'll address the second part of your question.
Yeah.
I have been in emerging technologies and management consulting for a long time, and it was very clear to me in 2015 when Vitalik Buterin announced Ethereum with this notion of decentralized computation. It was very clear to me that this was going to change the fabric of society, of economy, of everything we know as digital economy. So I set my mind to go in that direction, and almost by happenstance, it just the alignment of stars, so to say. It just happened that I was introduced to the Ministry of Economy, and I gave him like an elevator pitch on the significance of this technology for the country, and that got him interested. And that's where this whole thing started off. Then he asked me, can you help us with drafting a strategy for this? And yes, of course, yes.
And if I understand it correctly, I think you and Silvio might have drafted the strategy in 8 to 9 months. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I would say it's me, Silvio, and a whole team of people. The list is too long to mention, but in particular the whole team on the task force. Dr. Max Ganado, who's actually the mind behind the laws, the drafting of the laws. The folks at the Malta Financial Services Authority, they've done an outstanding job. University of Malta has contributed an enormous amount of brain power and thinking to this. Malta Enterprise, Central Bank, we've been talking to all of them. So at the end, probably it was an extended team of 80, 90 people that did this whole thing. Yes.
Okay. So in a recent blog post, you spoke about the bigger picture. What is it that Malta is actually trying to achieve with these new bills?
So if you step back and you look at how we arrived here, we started working on this in 2016, and this was before the explosion of the Bitcoin evaluation and before the phenomenon of the ICOs in 2017. Those two things got countries very excited, and many reacted quickly and came out with very first regulations, so to say, of this space. So we can name like Gibraltar, Singapore, and others. And it appeared that Malta was just standing there and not moving, notwithstanding all the announcements that had been made. But in reality, we had started in 2016, and we were not upset by these evaluations of the Bitcoin and the ICOs. We had in mind another thing, and that was how to deal with the new kind of technology. That's why we call ourselves the blockchain island, not the crypto island, not the Bitcoin island, but the blockchain island. In fact, if you will examine the 4 laws that will be in place. The 3 that have been approved and will enter in effect now on the 1st of November, and the 4th one, which is upcoming. You will see that 3 out of those 4 laws are primarily for the blockchain technology space. It's the distinction between Generation 1 blockchains, decentralized storage, Bitcoin in a word, and Generation 2 blockchains, decentralized computation, Ethereum in a word. We were caring about the Generation 2 blockchains. That's why this set of laws has taken much longer to produce than addressing only cryptocurrencies and ICOs.
Obviously, you're in a special position as an advisor to the Maltese government. Is there any work going on right now of the Maltese government actually integrating blockchain into their infrastructure?
Well, Malta has already delivered on this, because Malta is the first country globally that has adopted the blockchain to register academic titles. So Maltese students will have their academic titles on the blockchain. Then, of course, there are a number of other projects going on, which are still at the drawing board stage, but you can expect to see many other things happening in the public services sector in terms of understanding, adopting, using the blockchain and providing the benefits of the blockchain to society here in Malta.
So I imagine lots of other EU countries now are watching Malta very closely to see how this all goes. Just from your knowledge and your background, would you imagine any other countries right now that you think could be next in line in the EU that might follow Malta's lead?
I think that many countries will be looking very carefully. As you said, we are having France, which is moving with determination. We have the EM blockchain forum, which is gathering representatives from all the EU countries, and it's basically a think tank trying to come up with a way to understand and regulate this space from a European perspective. And now, yes, I think that finally they will be looking at what we have done here in Malta.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the recent proposal for legal personalities, DAOs and smart contracts?
Yes, indeed. It's one of my favorite topics. I started working on this already in 2016 with Dr. Max Ganado. We were just trying to understand how the technology would evolve and what kind of support was needed from a regulatory perspective. At first, it was just a brainstorm between me and him, but eventually we realized that this was not only something desirable, but actually a necessity. And of course, this is raising a lot of controversies and objections and reservations, both from the side of the people developing decentralized technologies who maybe are inspired by libertarian ideology and quickly come to the conclusion that this technology does not need regulation at all. And on the other side, we are also having a lot of objections from the legal side, from lawyers, professionals in this sector, that are very upset by the idea that a piece of software would all of a sudden have legal personality. Now, I have, of course, many things I could go into details here. I have a list of a dozen reasons why this is necessary. But rather than delving into the reasons, I just want to present the point of view, the viewpoint from which one should look at the problem. In particular, with respect to the developers who say that this technology does not need regulation. And believe it or not, we fully agree with them. The technology does not need regulation, and this is not an attempt at regulating the technology. But the problem is that behind technology we have people, the developers themselves. Yeah. So the question is not what is in it for the technology, but what is in it for me as a developer. I often make this rhetorical or hypothetical question formulated as, who is the smartest guy? Is it Satoshi? We don't know if it's a guy or a lady, but is it Satoshi or is it Vitalik? And I have no doubt that Satoshi is the smarter one. Why? Because he remained anonymous. And if hypothetically the Bitcoin or whatever technology arrangement, as we call it in the law, produces damage and harm, you can be sure that the lawyers will try to reach the so-called nearest person. They apply the nearest person principle. And in the case of Satoshi, there is no one to get at. But in the case of Vitalik, you will be sure that they will get at Vitalik. So you need something to protect the developers from allowing them to continue to innovate. And this becomes even more urgent if you start considering what is happening both in the US and in EU. In the US we have some lawyers represented primarily by Angela Walk, and also some functionary at the Commodities and Futures Trade Commission that have expressed this very clear intent of considering the developers, the engineers, as fiduciaries, even if they might be open source developers which are moonlighting just for their intellectual enjoyment. Of course, if you have any insight in how software development works, and in particular open source software developments, you will violently disagree with that notion. So what does legal personality bring us? By giving legal personality to the software, to the DAO, the technology arrangement, we have a place where liability can stop. Yeah. And basically this is protecting the developer, it's protecting innovation. And this is also why the new regulator here is called the Malta Digital Innovation Authority. It's not the blockchain authority, it's the innovation authority. The intent is to protect innovation.
So I guess one of the biggest hurdles at the moment is proving where the source funds come from. What solutions are needed to overcome this issue?
So here we are clearly in the financial space of the Malta Financial Services Authority, and there it's very, very clear. They have come up with this financial instruments test, whereby you can decide whether a token has certain features or traits that would qualify it as a financial instrument. Financial instruments is the word we use in Europe, which is equivalent to the security in the US. And it's very clear if that test qualifies this token as a financial instrument, it has to underlie all the current regulations in the matter which we have in Europe, so MiFID, prospectus, and all of those. It also brings a lot of clarity in the gray area between the security token and the utility token. In fact, the utility token here is called a virtual token, and it is a pure utility token, meaning that you can only use it to consume a service, and it remains confined within that service. It might be exchanged between the users of that service, but it cannot be traded with users of other services or through exchanges. The moment the virtual token becomes a means of exchange, of trade, then it qualifies a virtual financial asset. And here the Act establishes a number of criteria that must be met by the issuer of this token. So we're no longer in the happy days of 2017, where just by writing a white paper you could think about the color of your next Lambo. That time is definitely past and over.
Maybe a new Peugeot now.
Maybe yes, in one color maybe.
Yeah.
And it's not even as the perception is in the US that the utility token is dead, so we will definitely go over to the security token.
Yeah.
Yes, there is definitely space, a huge, enormous space for the security token, but the utility token, at least here in Malta, is not dead at all. It will live as a virtual financial asset. And if you want to launch an ICO, which we would then call the virtual financial assets offering, you have to apply for that. Here you go through a so-called virtual financial assets agent who will help the company to go through the process. The requirements on the white paper are very cumbersome. So it's a very structured white paper. You have to conform to the structure, and you have to provide a lot of information that in the old white papers was simply not there.
Right. Okay, so what is your philosophy then on the trade-off between decentralization and centralization? Like, where's the right balance in your opinion?
There is no balance. Either you are a permissionless open blockchain, or you are a permission blockchain, which in my opinion is not a blockchain at all. It's, as many have said, a glorified database which just happens to be built on new data or well-known data structures, which by the way are much more inefficient than ordinary databases. The permissioned database poses only some issues of commercial nature, of contractual nature between the owners and stakeholders within the permissioned blockchain. So it's really nothing different than what we are accustomed to deal with current commercial laws. The real challenge is in the open permissionless blockchain, and that's where all this innovation in terms of laws and regulations is happening.
Great. Okay, thank you, Steve. Is there any new projects or anything that you're working on? I think you mentioned that there's a fourth bill that you guys are working on that you could give us an update to our viewers.
Yes, well, I can mention about this fourth bill and also a personal initiative I have. The fourth bill is currently being drafted, and it will be based off the foundations law that we have here in Malta. The foundations law will effectively frame an innovative technology arrangement as a new kind of foundation. It will be called the Innovative Technology Foundation. The purpose is to allow this technology arrangement to build up a patrimony. So the DAO would, as it is operating, for instance, set aside coverage in a sinking fund as it keeps on transacting, or it could purchase insurance, maybe from decentralized insurance services, or it could have some coverage in terms of a security or guarantee. But the point is that by building this patrimony, you have a target for liability, and that's the mechanism through which we would protect the developers. As I mentioned before, if there is liability, there is something to go and touch. Then, regarding my own initiatives, now I'm focusing on developing the local and international ecosystems of blockchain business. So I just launched this new online platform. It's my.blockchainisland.club. Maybe repeat that. It's my.blockchainisland.club, and that's where I want to bring together investors, founders, corporate legal service providers, software engineers, crypto experts, anyone who has some stake in creating a blockchain business here in Malta.
Great. Well, thanks so very much for your time today, Steve. You've heard that all here on EOK TV. Remember to subscribe below. Thanks for your time today.